Well, Pitt is on its way back. I feel comfortable saying that after watching Jeff Capel's team in action now. They pulled off 2 upsets really in the last 7 days against Louisville. And if you think Louisville wasn't an upset, watch Louisville go to North Carolina and beat them by 21. And then tonight, Florida State comes in here, ranked 11th in the country. Big team. But Pitt is fearless. Those young guards they have, Gene, can get to the rim. Trey McGowan's 30 points in 2 out of 4 games. And then Xavier Johnson, who's a freshman, and he scored double digits in 17 straight games. These are 2 guys to build around. I've always said about basketball, Gene, if you have guards, you have a chance to win. If you don't, you won't. It's as simple as that no matter what level.
Well, you know, what you said about them being fearless was the first observation I wanted to make on them. So as they say on the talk shows, Bob, you stole my thunder.
That was probably a Trey Trophy winner. Stole the thunder?
No,
it never was?
Never even a finalist.
Oh, my goodness.
But thanks for mentioning the Trey Trophy. That's what I see in Pitt that is so different from a year ago, 2 years ago. Pitt is not afraid of any situation, does not get discouraged, does not get out of control. They just look so different. Now, obviously it helps when you have an opponent that's coming off the game that Bob referred to against Duke, also that makes one of its first 19 threes, also that has Cabin Gailey foul out at the 7-minute mark. He leads them in scoring generally. But that doesn't diminish anything Pitt did here. That was a really good win for the program.
And how about Syracuse, which is next up for Pitt? At the Carrier Dome, Syracuse goes to Cameron Indoor tonight and beats Duke in overtime, 95-91. And then Pitt will have to take on Duke next Tuesday night right back here at the Peterson Event Center. It doesn't get any easier in the ACC. All right, let's get to the lines. We got a lot of them out there. Waylon in Washington. What's up, Waylon? How are you?
Hi, Bob. Hi, Gene. How you guys?
What's up?
Hey, check it out. Nothing major. It's just the Antonio Brown, Jerry Rice scene. It's like, there's 52 other players in the team with families and there's coaches and, everything's involved and, like, even the fans. And, my question is, do you think it's like management, ownership? I mean, why is this going on with the Steelers?
No, immature people, and there's been a culture right now of enabling to some degree, and those players have taken advantage of that when, I think a responsible person would realize that you shouldn't do that, but they did, and both sides have blame here, Gene, and I think that's one of the things they're trying to change. The question is, can they change it basically with the same approach, or do they have to change their entire approach?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose both sides are to blame, but I put the majority of it on Antonio Brown, and I think that's the answer to the question of what's going on here. Antonio Brown is going on. He's been a little unstable throughout his career, as you know. Apparently he just had enough for whatever reason, good or bad. And, this kind of stuff happens. I don't think that's that big a deal, frankly.
It's hard to imagine, though. We were talking about having those so-called killer bees not too long ago. Ben, Bell, Brown, and throw in Boswell, another killer bee. And 3 of them have been killed off this year. It looks like 2 won't return, and who knows about Boswell. So things can change in a hurry. By the way, one other football note. Mark in Pittsburgh, he'll be the offensive coordinator for Pat Narduzzi. I think that's a good hire. I do.
Yeah, always well thought of. Former Steelers quarterback. Good offensive mind.
All right, line 2 we go. It's David in the South Side. What's up, David? How are you?
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody.
You too.
I'm just calling to make a comment.
Go ahead.
And that is that I'm glad that the Rooney's are stable in what they believe in. They're going to do what's best for not only the Rooney family, but the football team and the Steeler Nation. And I'm glad that they don't listen to all the BS that be going on in the media and people that really don't know
first of all,
nothing about football.
The media, we're only reacting to what's actually going on there. And what's going on there is a lot of drama that doesn't need to be. I'm sure the Steelers will be the first to tell you they don't want this kind of stuff. But here they are. For the last 2 years, they've been in the middle of a lot of drama, Gene. And now you got to deal with it and the ramifications that come because of it.
Well, I mean, there's There's no blame in the media on this. Again, this falls to Antonio Brown. I mean, the media benefit from it. There's no doubt about it. We enjoy talking with it about it to an extent. I think we've passed that point. But you know, this isn't a media issue.
No, it's not. Line 3, Joe in Gallitzin. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Gene. Good evening.
Hey, Joe.
Well, Bob, when you say Gene's an outstanding columnist, you're spot on, and you're an outstanding commentator yourself.
Well,
Really
thank you.
enjoy
But,
it.
hey,
nice, thank
this
you.
guy is a wordsmith.
You guys are welcome. Hey, I'm going to make a couple quick comments. And
Take
then
your time.
Make it
you're
quick,
off
though,
the
please.
line. Will do. Okay, first of all, nobody asked me, but I personally think Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell are both whacked. They should be completely forgotten about. I'm glad to see Mr. Rooney stepping in and taking over things. He's doing a good job at doing that, and I think he should put Tomlin on a very short leash. This is my opinion. Also, who do you guys like in the championship games and to win the Super Bowl?
All right,
Thank you
man.
both very much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. I happen to like Kansas City to beat New England. That's not going to be a popular bet among bookies or casino people. But I think Kansas City at home is a tough team, and Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. I think New England's going to be hard-pressed to try to beat that team there. And then the other side of it, I'm going to pull an upset. I think the Rams are good enough to beat the Saints.
Maybe they are. I've thought really from the middle of the season on that no team is as good as Kansas City. Now they've lost a couple of games, but I think when they are right, I don't think they can be beaten. New England isn't to be doubted, except they did lose 5 road games, and they are a cold weather team, but it could be really cold Sunday in Kansas City. People are talking about a high of 12 for that night game. But I expect Kansas City to win, and I expect the Saints to win too.
All right. Holding serve at home. That's what Gene says. What do you say? Call us on that. And also, the Pirates, through the Post-Gazette, had an interesting article today about Neil Huntington and his first words down there at Pirate Minicamp in Bradenton, Florida, about where the Pirates are. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, Pittsburgh CW.